Hello, everybody. It's Jacob Doodle here with Corey at V Canucks News on the Twitter, the recap expert himself. How's it going, man?
Blue Jays are winning.
Yeah, they're on an absolute heater. So we just covered Elliot Friedman with the 32 Thoughts podcast. He went over a lot of the Vancouver Canucks news, some interesting stuff on Baines. We did a video on it, so definitely go check that out. This video is going to be covering Patrik Allvin's interview with John Shannon and Landon Ferraro. If you guys don't know what they've been doing nowadays, they have a new podcast, the 100% Canucks podcast with Ferraro and Shannon. Definitely go check them out, leave them a follow, and we're going to be going over their interview with Patrik Allvin. And if you guys are a fan of this type of content, we do news you might have missed when there is good, a lot, and fun Vancouver Canucks news. So definitely drop a like, leave a subscribe. It really does help out our channel quite a bit. We're 10 days in, and it's been just the excitement's been blowing us away, man. Unbelievable. You guys are amazing. So let's get straight into it. No more wasting time. The UFA pool, a lot of players re-signed before entering the UFA status. Some UFAs said that Canada was not their preferred destination. Personally, I think Canada would be a great place to play and to win a cup. I know there are some tax problems there, but like you'd be a legend in the city if you won the cup here. But of course, there are some problems, especially with tax. Maybe they just want to stay in the United States. Who knows? What do you think about this, Corey?
Yeah, people have different preferences of where they want to live, and so I get it.
Yeah. So now finding a center. So looked at the UFAs. We'll continue to explore their options and see if there's something out there. Centers are a priority around the league. Filip Chytil is still young and has missed games, has the intangibles and the skill set to play higher up in the lineup, which we did cover in our last video about Filip Chytil and what can we expect from him. Again, mostly with him, it's just to stay healthy. Like if he stays healthy, I think he'll have a really good productive season. And if you can find someone that fits the criteria of a second line center, then you still have the best, or he said that you can have the best top three centers in the league if you then have Chytil as your third line center. I wouldn't say go that far, but yeah. I would say it would be a pretty decent group. It matters who we get at the second line center position. You know, if it's like a guy like Roslovic, who's kind of like a hybrid third line center / winger type, then we definitely would not have the top three. But if you get a really good, young, talented guy like McTavish or Marco Rossi, at least you can have a little bit of a conversation that it would be much better. So what do you think about the first segment there on finding a center?
I mean, I definitely think they're going to try to find one this summer. I don't know how. They haven't been able to find one yet. And I don't even know who would be available. So we'll see.
Yeah. So re-signing their own players was important for their culture and setting a standard for years to come. Brock Boeser had earned his UFA status, but neither side ever closed that door. Foote had reached out to Boeser and talked about some tweaks to make them kind of the way they want to play, which is very interesting. We'll get to that. And the players believe in the foundation of the team, which they proved because, as you can see, they've been going to meetings and even flying. Like Pettersson flew across the world to go specifically to a leadership meeting, which was very, very nice to see. And despite everything that happened last season, they were still 4 wins away from being in the playoffs. So I'll start off with this one. Yes, they were. They had an incredible amount of injuries. The drama was well recorded with the JT Miller, Elias Pettersson drama. Locker room was in shambles. Everything didn't go well, and we were still pretty close. And of course, Demko, was not hurt or was also hurt for a majority of the season as well. So it's not crazy to think that they're going to have a big bounce back season this year, even without that second line center. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if things just go well, they're at the very least in a wild card position, or that strong fight for a wild card spot.
Mm-hmm. Now with Evander Kane, he calls him a unicorn compared to the rest of the league, a little bit of a old school hockey player. Every coach wants to have be harder to play against. Well, he's going to bring physicality, and we're hoping he's going to have chemistry with Elias Pettersson, especially on that power play where he has a really good shot. So it's going to be fun to see. Actually, I don't know how they're going to work DeBrusk, Boeser, and Kane on that power play. Really curious to see what they do there because, the net front guy usually would be DeBrusk in the situation because he's really good at those tip goals. He had so many tip goals last year. Kane can shoot, so maybe you can throw him on the bunker there and you can pull Boeser on the side with Quinn Hughes and there's ways to make it work. I'm I'm like, where's Petey going to go, right? Like that's the big kind of question there when it comes to the power play. I'm not sure if you had any thoughts on that, but yeah, if you have any thoughts on the power play, I'd love to hear them, Corey.
Power play, it's going to be really interesting. Like that is maybe one of the most fascinating stories. Their power play is much maligned, but it's not as bad as everyone makes it out to be. It just would go into dormancy for long stretches and then like heat up and score some big goals at certain times. So we'll see how it works out. You got a whole new power play coach. You have a whole new system. You have a whole new everything. So there's just going to be a lot of questions, and we probably won't even get answers until midway in the season. You rarely get those answers in training camp.
And that would be a fun video to make, actually, just talking about power plays, the lines, and everything as a whole.
Sure.
We'll definitely cover something like that because I want to see more movement on our power play for sure. Next up, Adam Foote felt it was important to get Hughes, Demko, and Pettersson together and build their leadership out from there. Foote has moved on to the next phase of growing the leadership by incorporating more players. That's interesting. I haven't heard that one yet. Adam Foote continues to have Zoom calls, so it's constant communication, which is something I would love to see. Foote also has the ability to communicate with different personalities and was one thing that stood out during the interview process. So this was actually mentioned by Rutherford as well, that he basically wants everybody to be themselves and not kind of fit into a specific personality type that they're looking for. I'm not sure if Rick Tocchet did that because I'm not in the room, but the fact that they're mentioning it many times now makes me think that was the case, or maybe a little bit of it was the case. Was detailed, ready, and prepared in his interviews, which was nice to see. And obviously the players respected him. So Adam Foote, man, like some interesting tidbits there. What do you think?
I'm very curious to see how Foote handles the rigors of the entire season and the finer points of being a coach. It's easy now when you already have a relationship with all these players and you're building things together and it's all very kumbaya. Let's all work in the same direction, guys. And what happens if things don't start out great or you hit the inevitable down patches in the year? Because it's a very inexperienced coaching group from a head coaching perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the defense is probably really happy he's still around because our defense was much improved in the second half of the season. DPD is going to be back. Marcus Pettersson, Hronik should be healthy. Quinn Hughes should be healthy. Meyer should be healthy. And obviously Mancini and or whoever else is going to be there, Forbert, whatever they want to do there. There's just a lot to work with there, and Willander, of course, right? Potentially moving up and. Not. I
remember they replaced Adam Foote on defense with Kevin Dean, who is very, very highly thought of around the league.
Yes, that's a very good point as well. Elias Pettersson, very few players in the NHL can do what he can do. Elias Pettersson showing up to the leadership meeting with no hesitation, which we talked about that already, encouraged everybody else, which was just really important because they need to get these guys on the same page as early as possible, considering the gong show what happened last season. If they get him back to the level he is capable of, it will drag the rest of the team with him, which I truly believe as well, because this season is mostly about how Elias Pettersson does. We need a bounce back from him. Super, super important. He's healthy. He talked to the medical, and they said that there was a game tomorrow. Every player on the roster would be available to play. That is great news. That is by far probably the biggest news that came out of this section for sure, and probably the last couple sections here. If everybody's healthy to play right now, that means they should be able to train with no issues moving out for the rest of the offseason, which is only good news for the Canucks. Yeah. Man, that's interesting, Corey.
They went into last year with 4 injured players, 4 key injured players. You had Demko and Joshua, but then also Pettersson and Miller. Because remember, Miller missed most of the preseason, didn't play in most of the games, and had a neck injury. Like if they can go in this year with everyone healthy, now it's hard to get through training camp and preseason games with everyone healthy, but if you can get into the season and start the year with just everyone healthy and ready to go, that will give the team a huge, huge, huge leg up and make them so much more cohesive.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, on the Abbotsford Canucks, they were very important and very happy for the fans. Yes, we were quite happy, weren't we, Corey?
I was there. Yes. It's very loud and very fun.
Yeah, the support was amazing. Some of the players from the playoff run will absolutely get a chance to be in Vancouver full time. The players dictate that, but they need to get an opportunity to succeed. Might need to open up roster spots, which we mentioned with Joshua and Bluger potentially being traded on the block-ish, kind of, for these players, and have created a pretty good pipeline. The pipeline, like, this is the best development / prospect kind of development we've had for God knows how long now. The one thing in this organization with Jim Rutherford and Allvin they've done is they've really made it a big deal to get these guys potentially ready to play in the NHL. And we finally have that, considering we don't have a crazy amount of top picks. The fact that we're got Kucherov looks so amazing. The fact that guys like throw me some names like Baines and Carlson and Mueller.
Ty Mueller's a fourth or fifth round pick. Max Sasson was an undrafted free agent. Arshdeep Baines, an undrafted free agent. Like
even Jet Wu, who just had a really great defensive type season for Jet Wu. Now, is he going to be an NHL? Probably not. But the fact is, like they're showing progress. Even Klimovich, who's just, we know he has problems defensively. But man, he scored so many clutch goals for Abby.
3 OT goals.
Yes, like this is the guy. Like they're like, hey, Klim Reaper, get over here, get on the ice. We need a goal. You're the guy who's going to help us get that goal, and that was huge for development, the confidence, the chemistry of the team. I do say though, it's sad to see Sammy Blais leave, but man, he
got his bag. He got his opportunity with his hometown team. Like awesome. I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we picked up Pierre Oliver Joseph now on defense, so that should be a nice Latin replacement as well. So now moving on, before we start with Manny Malhotra, if you guys are enjoying Canucks news you might have missed and all my videos, it really does help the channel a lot if you drop a like. It really truly does. Also follow Corey at V Canucks News. Next up, Manny Malhotra. When a coach departs an organization, you have a conversation about the up-and-coming candidates. Talked about this last year with Ryan Johnson when Jeremy Colleton left. I wonder if Jeremy is regretting his decision of leaving now after some of this stuff had happened, but who knows? Malhotra, his staff, the Sedins and Johnson all contributed to the success of the team absolutely 100%. Has been an assistant coach for 7 years and wants to become a head coach. Manny Malhotra is going to be a National Hockey League head coach. I am really confident in that fact. Yep. The question is, he signed for another, I believe, 2 seasons for the Canucks. That means we have another 2 years with him, guaranteed, unless we let him go find a job elsewhere. Unless we, say, hey, you know what? Someone really wants you as the NHL head coach. We're going to let them have the rights of it. But I think they want to see what Foote does here. And if it doesn't work out in the next couple of years, Manny's going to be our new coach. Matt, what do you think about Manny, the Abbey, and all this lovely stuff?
Here's my hot take. He's going to be a head coach at the start of the 26-27 season somewhere.
Oh, somewhere.
And I doubt it will be within the Canucks organization.
That would make me very sad, but I can definitely see that being the case.
He's not going to be an assistant coach of the Canucks. Like Neil Graham in Dallas went and did that. They hired Glenn Gulletson as the head coach and promoted Neil Graham up to be assistant coach. But as it says here, Manny's already been an assistant coach for 7 years in the NHL.
Has he been a full-blown associate coach, though, making like the number 2 guy?
No, I don't think he was ever been an associate coach, so he could possibly do that. But
that's a huge raise. Like, that's a huge raise.
That'd be pretty unprecedented, though, because normally you do associate coaches when you're starting a new coaching staff or you're promoting someone within. Rick Bowness didn't start out as an associate coach with the Canucks. He was promoted in that position after a couple of years. So if you're going and bringing in Manny and all of a sudden he's an associate coach with Foote, but you already have these other guys that were brought up in there this year, I don't see that happening. Like, that's very rare. So I just don't really see a path forward with Manny as the head coach or part of the coaching staff. Unfortunately, I love the guy. He's fantastic. He's such a good coach.
Yes, he really is just awesome, man. Really, really good. So next up, we're going to be talking about Allvin's career. We're very fortunate to get opportunities to keep moving up in the organization. Says he never asked for it, but never said no. Loves challenges and new opportunities. Extremely grateful to be the general manager in a Canadian market. Is fairly open-minded and is pretty good at listening. Is good at evaluating players. He thinks he empowers his staff and holds them accountable. What do you think about Allvin in general as a general manager in Vancouver?
I think his greatest strength, and he does mention this, but I didn't really go too deep into recapping it, is building the organization out. If you look at the AGMs, if you look at the success Abbotsford has and the whole pipeline they've had that. It's been very strong. There's been a lot of turmoil behind the scenes, it sounds like, but the process is very, very good. And the people they put in place and empowering those people and getting other people around them and just building out an actual front office, that's been the biggest strength and the biggest turnover we've seen from the last regime to this regime.
I think he's done a pretty darn good job. I like when, like, I know people say you shouldn't be making these mistakes to begin with, but I like when a mistake happens, they seem to kind of fix it really quickly. They don't just get tied down to players like, Desharnais, for example. They knew that wasn't really working out. They got rid of him. Stillman, it wasn't really working out. They got rid of him. Even like Mikheyev, who obviously had a better season when he went away. Same with guys like OEL, where he was bought out. They have to go, and sometimes you got to do the stuff that's kind of hard to do, but they have kind of fixed some of the problems along the way. I just wish they would have a little bit less problems sometimes.
No one bats 1,000 though.
Exactly, that's true.
Tampa Bay traded an entire draft's worth for Tanner Jeannot.
Yeah, that's true.
Like barely a fourth liner, although the Kings seem to think he's not, or not the Kings. Whoever signed him, a team I can't remember now because Jeannot is so.
Where did he go? Where did Jeannot go?
Boston.
Yes, Boston. Yeah, but he's that physical, guy who can, they're probably hoping like a Sherwood type season in Boston for him. He does have more upside. He's not the worst player ever.
Just doesn't have the scoring rate.
It's just he doesn't have the scoring rate. Exactly.
There's no underlying numbers that show that he's going to have. Anyway.
Yeah, but we can talk about Jeannot some other day. All right, last season. Frustrating when you have key players injured and you can't use that as an excuse, even though every interview possibly they've had with Jim, Allvin, pretty much everywhere. Hey, we're not going to use it as an excuse, but we had a lot of injuries. But I get it. No, but I get it, though, because like they did have a ton of injuries and we were only 4 wins away from making the playoffs. So, of course, they're going to bring it up, right? Injuries create opportunities for young players. Was more frustrated at their inability to find consistency, weren't able to string wins together. I will say, by the way, with the injuries creating opportunities, you want to know one of those players that got opportunities? Hronek, when Quinn Hughes was down, looked really, really good. We found out, hey, maybe he can run his own line. And another guy who got a lot of minutes and probably wouldn't have got as many minutes is DPD, which we found out, man, this guy can really play. This guy is not just some prospect. This guy has like wheels. He has defensive ability. Man, he has a good shot. Like there's the upside is
he's the full package.
I don't know how that guy wasn't the first rounder. It blows my mind.
The short answer was he was a little bit shorter. He grew quite a bit after they drafted him. And that was a weird year for drafting prospects. I covered that draft, and that was a really weird year. Teams felt they didn't have enough information on a lot of players, so there was a lot of kind of like guesses.
Yeah,
same with Kudryavtsev, same draft. That's a guy that should not have fallen to the 7th round.
Like that, we call me and my friends when we call him Forsling light. Okay, sure. So like, because guys, I'm not saying he's gonna be the next Forsling. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying like. The fact is, like, Forsling, no one really thought he would become what he was. And Kudryavtsev, after just that one season, just watch the guy play. Like, just the heart, soul, like, blocks everything, moves the puck well, passes the puck well. Just, like, it's just 7th rounder, man. Like, give me a break. Let's see. Hopefully he has a nice second season here.
Bet on Hockey Sense.
Yes.
Bet on Hockey Sense.
Also, every day is a new challenge and have to find and to always be finding ways to be better. Well, I think that's pretty obvious there. Next up, day-to-day management. Consistently looking at various projections. Will be a more condensed schedule this upcoming season because of the Olympics. That's interesting, actually. Yeah. Will be difficult on the players. Need to combat this with depth and a strong farm team. Well, we have defensive depth, which is really nice. We do not have forward depth. So that's going to be kind of grinding us on this season. But we also now have goalie depth because we have Demko and Lankinen. Both can be starters in this league. So it's kind of nice to have that 1-2 punch. But before we get even harder into the goalies, Thatcher Demko, a healthy Demko, is a top 3, top 4 goalie in the league, was fairly quick path to getting a new contract. And by the way, apparently he is healthy. So he's good to go, which leads to the big one. Arturs Shilovs is a young and extremely good goalie. Yes, I agree. He's a very good goalie, and he has improved his outside shots, which is something we've been begging for because that was easily the biggest kryptonite for him in the NHL. So we'll see.
He's still in a lot of outside unscreened shots. A lot went in during the playoff run still.
Why are you being such a hater, Corey? Like, let me pump up Shilov's tire. We need to trade him for something, okay?
I watched every game. I was there throughout it, and that's still his Achilles heel, and it happens in the AHL.
It is a little better though, because I have watched a little bit too.
And his tracking is better.
Yes.
It's not so much the bigger concern is not so much the problem of like tracking through traffic. It's more of like that's one you should have had, and that just happens way more often in the NHL than the AHL.
Well, let's hope he keeps developing on that. We'll be on, unless he's going against us in the Stanley Cup final. We'll be on Latvia's Olympic roster over the next couple of weeks. We will decide if they are going to carry 3 goalies or do something prior to camp.
Yeah.
So that's something you wanted to talk about, Corey.
Yeah. So this isn't carry 3 goalies into the season. He was saying carry 3 goalies into training camp, which still implies that even at training camp, they know they're going to have to do something because obviously Shilovs needs to go through waivers to go to the AHL, and he will most likely get snatched up at that point. So they have to make the decision in the next couple of weeks. Do we trade this guy? Is it worth it? Or do we go into camp and then maybe either we have an injury or someone else has an injury and we can then extract some value out of that, or leading into camp as well?
And for the bottom 6, he feels that the bottom 6 is harder to play against. They can kill penalties, which I guess we will see. If we lose Bluger, that's another penalty kill guy. And we also lost Suter. So, like, that's 2 penalty kill guys. So can these young guys from Abbey hold the fort? I guess we're going to find out, right? But Joshua's a penalty killer too, and he should have a bounce back season. So if he doesn't get traded, that's an interesting name as well. So mentions Linus Karlsson is fighting for an NHL spot. I would be absolutely floored if he's not on this roster next season. There's nothing for him to prove in the AHL anymore. He's ready. Give this guy a shot to play a lot of regular games. He's ready.
He's on a one-way, so no matter what, they're paying him if he's in the NHL or AHL as well, and that's something that teams do factor in. Not so much in roster composition, but it is a little bit of a factor.
Breaking in, you're absolutely right. Breaking into the NHL, the hardest thing in the NHL is consistency, which is true. Also need to understand, Also need to understand your identity and role. Mentions Daniel and Hendrickson are very important in this aspect. You know, a lot of people have been mentioning the Sedins a lot recently. They seem to be putting an implant into this kind of organization now even more. And the fact that they're being mentioned more and more, and with the Abbey run as well, I would be curious to see moving forward if they're going to be officially our assistant coaches in the near future. Just something to keep an eye on with the Sedins. What's your opinion on the Sedins as coaches right now?
I don't know what they want to do, because remember, they were like special assistant to general managers and then took a step back to just go into a really boots on the ground development role. So I don't know if maybe that's actually that might be where they want to stay on that track, which actually does eventually get them in a GM role if that's the case. You know, you typically go development and then into like actual management and stuff like that. Or if they are going to do what Scott Young is currently doing, which is go from that development role into coaching. But that's a more odd path. Like, they seem to be someone who just really, really, really at this point in time loves just being with players and imparting all their wisdom. And I could see them honestly just doing that for a long time and getting very well compensated for it after a while.
Or you can be the head coach of Connor McDavid and Jr. Gets promoted right straight to the top. But all right, development camp. Braden Coots, he's looked good apparently, and I've seen some of the highlights and clips. He does look good, but again, they're highlights clips. Like, who knows, right? But from what I've seen with my eye test, his skating looks really good, and he has showed off his hands as well, which I like to see there too. So he stood out. He has a great personality. You can tell he's a leader. Yes, you can just tell in his interviews, the way he speaks, the confidence but not arrogance. This guy is a leader. it's going to be fun to see him. And I was laughing at some of the people's comparisons to this guy because it's all the way from like Richards all the way up to, oh my God, like the sky is the moon for this guy. You know, a lot of people are saying maybe even like a Philip Deneau type guy. That would be interesting.
Vincent Trocheck. Vincent Trocheck is my favorite.
Is another comparison. There's a lot of comparisons there. We'll see how far he goes. Interesting note though, World Juniors coming up. We don't think he's going to make that roster, even though he had a great under under U18, right? And he was a captain because there are apparently 9 Canadian forwards that were. Don't quote me on this. This is something I read on the side here. Either 8 or 9 Canadian forwards that were drafted in the first round in the last maybe couple years. Maybe it was even this year. I'm not 100% sure. And that's going to be tough, right? Like you're already like how much of that roster is already filled up by higher draft picks. So if he does make the team, it's probably going to be on a 4th line role, but he might not make the team because of that. But don't quote me on that because I would have to do a little bit more research. Just something I read on the kind of on the side there. Alexei Medvedev is very athletic with a great personality, has the energy around him. Apparently he had a good camp as well. So that's nice. Says the Wilmer Eriksson, right? How do I pronounce his name?
Alriksson.
That's a beauty. Rick Dollywood will be struggling with that one. Sorry, Rick. You love me, I know. Don't worry.
Ricky Bobby. Everyone just calls him Ricky Bobby.
He looks ready. Yes, he's a big boy, and and he has hands. We've seen his hands. You know what? He might be one of those
and he's got hands.
He might be one of those breakout players that not a lot of people are talking about now that could have a really nice season. Where is he playing next season?
AHL.
Actually, do you know? Is he going to be in the AHL? So that would be someone to keep an eye on for sure, especially if he can keep his skating developing. Another guy is Sansonen's here. He's going to play pro hockey in Switzerland, has added 20 pounds since his draft year. Like, that's good. And is at 6'4", 225. Whoa, big boy. This guy.
He also added height. Like, he got bigger. He was 6'2", and he's added 2 inches, and he's at 225.
Yeah,
that's a human refrigerator.
Was that same draft with Kudratsov and everybody?
No. This was Sansonen's was last year's draft.
Oh, too bad. That would have been another crazy thing. Might be forced to do the gross grind with the kids this week. Says the Sedins are perfect human. By the way, the Sedins at the grind, I'm pretty sure they can still play hockey right now. No joke, man. They're so fit, man. Says the Sedins are perfect human beings, and we're very fortunate to have them around. I have never heard a bad thing said about the Sedins ever. So the work ahead, there's still a lot of work to do. It never ends. Just like this lovely community channel that you guys helped me build. And we thank you so much for joining us. Corey, my man, thank you so much for doing these recaps and joining me tonight. We really appreciate it. Like truly appreciate it. You're an amazing guy to help me out with this. And everybody that supported this channel in the last 10 days, spectacular, unbelievable. It's blown my mind. The expectations were pretty average, and then the fact is you guys blew them out of the water. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is all because of you guys. So drop a like, drop a sub if you're new. If you guys like news you might have missed, you guys know the drill. By the way, quickly, we are going to be going to do some other type of content moving here forward. It's going to start slowing down a bit. We're going to be doing some hot take stuff on Twitter, so follow me on Twitter. And we have some other shenanigans to be doing. So Corey, thanks again, man.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so much.